I've got this Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. And in this spreadsheet, if you look carefully, it's currently focused on the table design tab. Okay, important aspects of working with Copilot. Copilot, in order to work in Excel, needs that Excel file to be stored in the cloud. OneDrive. Okay, a Teams library. Okay, a SharePoint library. All of those effectively have the same underlying structure. It's stored not on your local computer alone. It is in the cloud, as this file is. One way, by the way, how do I know if the file's in the cloud or not? All I did was open up a file. That's a good question. Here is a recipe to figure that out. If autosave is on, it's in the cloud. That's one of the telltale signs that it's in the cloud. I suppose another way would be if you did file and save as, and you notice the location of that file, that would help as well. But if you don't see Copilot in the menu up here, I'm just going to the home button, for example, and over here on the right, you can see if it doesn't say Copilot, it might very well be one, okay, you don't have Copilot Pro, individual license, or you don't have Copilot for Microsoft 365, the business license. All you've got is just access to Copilot within Edge, the Copilot chat, or the Copilot app, and you don't have these extra $20 or $30 add-ons, but I do. And in fact, if this were not a table, well, you might see Copilot, but Copilot wouldn't be visible. If your cursor were outside of the table, Copilot wouldn't really be able to do anything for you because it must be in a table in Excel, and the file in which that table is located has to be in the cloud, like OneDrive. But once you've got those, in a sense, prerequisites, then you're ready to see what kinds of things you can do with Copilot by clicking Copilot. It opens up the Copilot pane on the right side of the screen and starts to give you, I suppose, buttons and objects to work with that analyze or add on to the spreadsheet that you're working with. For example, if you notice on the right side of my screen, inside of the Copilot window, which is visible, over there, would you like to summarize using pivot tables and charts? Would you like to do some kind of an advanced analysis? Would you like to apply some color and formatting? Maybe you're the type of person who needs to highlight the highest value, the lowest value, or all the values that are from a certain division or department. The example I'm using is intended to be generic enough to be applicable to a wide array of Microsoft Excel users. It's all fictitious data, but I have a column of dates. I have a column with numbers, salary, and I have columns with words in them. So, if you sort of are eligible to try these things, all you really need is data that's got some dates and some numbers and some text. Then you're kind of ready to go. And here again, as I suggested, on the right side of my screen, you can see, you can use formats, you can ask Copilot a question, and then down here they even give you some suggestions. Suggest conditional formatting, a suggestion for formula columns. So in this instance, let's see, I need a chart. My manager, she says I need to build a chart out of this that shows a certain, I guess you could say, a certain pattern. So to be able to do that, I'm just going to go to the prompt window here. And inside of that prompt window, I'll type my request. Can you make a chart showing total salary by the year the person started? That's what I've got. Can you make? All I want to do is make a chart. I have no idea how to make a chart, but I figure you'll help me. And so in order to do that, I'll just click the button, the button that you see here on the right, that in a sense looks a lot like sending an email. I suppose I'm sending the prompt to Copilot. And when I do, it starts working on it. It's looking at the range of cells that make up my table. And lo and behold, it suggests a chart. It suggests a chart. Now, again, for the, at least third or fourth time, I need to point out this very small yet meaningful sentence. AI-generated content may be incorrect. It's not a genius. The way that artificial intelligence works is by probabilities. It's a probabilitist type of entity, probabilistic type of entity that is trying to figure out most likely solutions based upon the model. The model, that large language model. There are those who will remind you that it's only as good as the content that's in it. And if the content in it is biased, if it's got some kind of an algorithm, you have to be very wary of these things. It still requires your participation. And therefore, you're the person who, if you like this, would like to add it, you can choose to add it to a new sheet. And when you do so, you wind up with a pivot table and a chart that's based on it, just like that. That's how this process effectively plays out. And if I return back to my table, I get to consider other things that I might want to do with that table of mine. For example, let me talk about that column that says started, because my thought is this. Maybe I want to know if that's their start date. Well, how long has the person worked for the organization? I need a new column for that. And so in order to add a new column, what I would be doing is simply going over to my prompt, putting in my question. If started the column means it's the date the person started, well, how long have they worked for the organization? So I'll just send that on its way and see what it comes up with. I see a suggested formula, as you might be able to see over here. I even see the calculation of the formula as well. And if I'd like an explanation of that formula, then I could, in turn, click that button to be able to see the results. And of course, it would explain it in the panel on the right side of the screen. That being the case, if I truly wanted to insert it, then I would just click on the button that says Insert the Column and wind up with an additional column that's calculating the numbers of years that someone has worked for the company. Let's close out the Copilot panel for a moment by either going up to the Home tab and choosing that and choosing the Copilot button, or just by clicking on the Copilot close window on the right. Now that I have the years worked, I'll return back and revisit the Copilot pane and think of some other things to do. For example, I'd like to know, now that I know how many years people have worked, maybe I'm interested in the average, the average number of years worked grouped by department. So I just basically brainstorming, thinking of things that I'd like to see, show me the average. And so if I send that on to Copilot, we'll see what kinds of results it suggests. And those results that it suggests will come back inside of the pane, and then I can decide whether I want to preserve them by putting them on their own sheet. Now, whether or not this is something that helps you identify or analyze the existing data is hard to say. But if I choose copy or add to the sheet, then I can add it to its own sheet. There it is, along with the chart. And if I've got the business about the average numbers of years worked by group by department is as follows, maybe I want something like that, and we'll highlight it and then insert that into a sheet, insert that sheet as well. If you're not that adept at thinking, well, what should I do? I don't know what to look at. Then what you could do is simply take the suggestions, like, for example, which department has the highest average salary? List the departments with the most employees. You can just take their suggestions, click it, and see what kinds of things will be revealed by the choices that you've made and the options that are provided, and decide later, okay, we'll add this as well. I can copy the text so that I can put that somewhere else, perhaps on another sheet. I'll just insert a text box of some sort and then paste that text that I've got just like this. And in the same context, of course, this is just changing the way you do your work. It's going to add the report to another sheet. And then inevitably, you could take that report and move the details that you copied and pasted elsewhere and put that onto that sheet as well, as a way with which to create a report out of all of the data that you've collected. If you're looking for, again, other prompts that you can borrow that would be recommended by the Copilot that you're using, then you click on the button that looks like, give me some more suggestions, create some formulas, understand the data. If I choose understand, it's giving you some types of prompts that are related to understanding of the data. Show me some insights. What's the percentage of the total revenue from each region? Maybe insights could be an interesting choice considering they're suggesting it. And so if I choose the insights option, we'll see what kinds of, things develop from Copilot. Well, this is interesting. Comparing salaries by position, and say the average salary by position is as follows. And of course, you can add that to another sheet. And eventually, I suppose you're going to pull all this together into a single sheet or a dashboard that you may create. But this is the wherewithal of how Copilot is doing things for you that ordinarily might have required more effort, at least to initially create a draft for you to analyze. But maybe there's something else that's important. I just want to see all of the people who've worked for the company for more than 6 years. Maybe that's important. So I write in the prompt, well, show me just the people who work for more than 6 years. And it's suggesting to highlight those people. And I can apply that formatting to those cells. Oftentimes people will ask about, conditional formatting and whatnot, and how you do those types of things. And the premise of this is that the intent of however I may have phrased that is causing all of the cells to be highlighted in green. That doesn't feel right. Copilot is no genius. And when Copilot doesn't do what you want it to do or what you need it to do, the first thing I'm thinking is, well, we're going to undo that. And undo that takes me back to the previous condition before I had issued that prompt. And maybe, maybe I want to do this in a slightly different way. And I decide creatively how to revise the prompt. And then this time I'm saying, well, highlight cells in rows where years worked is more than 6. Highlight cells in rows. Now, later on, we'll talk about, and you'll learn, that Microsoft has published sample prompts that have been either developed internally by them or recommended by users like you that have worked for them on data sets to which those prompts have been applied. I think as time goes on, the skillfulness with which you build a prompt or the flexibility with which you revise the prompt you had written is going to be as important a skill as knowing about formulas and being able to write things in a way that causes any of the rows that have more than 6 for years worked to be quickly highlighted in yellow. That's the purpose of this. If after you've done that, you say, well, now I want to get rid of all that conditional formatting. Okay, so far, I have never touched the ribbon except for pressing the button that says Copilot. That's it. And opened up this companion pane on the right side of the screen that is available with Copilot Pro, $20 a month, or Copilot for Microsoft 365. Again, reminding you about the licensing and the way that that works. If I send this on its way, that is the prompt that I wrote, it's going to, we hope, clear off the conditional formatting that, well, it doesn't do it immediately. It does it if I choose, well, let's see if I can apply it. And if I apply it carefully, no more conditional formatting. A couple of more examples, then we'll move on to working with Microsoft Word. Filtering. You know how people love to filter lists. And I wonder whether you know that you can use buttons on the screen. But rather than you use buttons on the screen, maybe it's possible you might speak this to the microphone in your system one day, and rather than just typing and hoping it works, if you do so, when you send the command, whether it's recorded by Windows or it's typed by you, it's going to offer up the solution. And then you say, well, okay, I'll choose this. You know, a filtered table where salary is greater than 8,000, add it to a new sheet. If that's not what you want, maybe you wanted to filter it in place. You say, no, I just wanted to filter the table in place. And so if you write it like that and then you send it, we'll see whether that has an impact as you're watching the ebb and flow of how this actually works. It's sort of a combination of your literary skills and your technical wishes, because then I get a different result than the one that was offered. It doesn't do things immediately. It does things eventually based upon your suggestions. Again, if I want to clear that filter, I know you know how to clear the filter. I'm just saying that, do you think it's possible that the usage of Copilot expands a person who is not that adept at using Microsoft Excel and their capabilities to do the things they need more quickly without formal training on the nitty-gritty of how these steps are done? Maybe, I'm not suggesting it replaces knowledge about how to do things. I'm merely suggesting that the things you once did manually in Microsoft Excel can be done using Copilot as your, artificial intelligence assistant. Uh-oh, we're getting a news announcement. It says, sorry, I'm having trouble right now. Try reopening the chat and sending your prompt a bit later. Really? Here's another thing. I guess this system is busier than we thought. You don't have a lot of control over this, but if something doesn't work the first time, it is possible that you could send it on its way a second time. Remember, we're all dependent upon perhaps traffic, perhaps who knows what's underneath that diagram that I was showing you before. But now when I click apply, suddenly it puts back what I needed to. And honest to goodness, it's the same command from, well, maybe a couple of minutes ago. But yet it didn't work the first time. It works the second time. Stay tuned for more improvements, developments in the Copilot engine for Microsoft Excel. It is triggered by you pressing the Copilot button on the ribbon at the top of the screen, and the benefits, the features of it continue to expand. That's Copilot, at least an interesting introduction to it in the vocabulary of Microsoft Excel. You can use it for data analysis, which suggests you're collapsing many rows of transactions down into summary calculations, whether it's totals, averages, and whatnot. You're also able to create better financial models by taking the data that's there and generating reports that, again, summarize the information in the form of pivot tables and pivot charts, and automating tasks with formulas. I can't take credit for writing the formula that calculated, as you may recall, the numbers of years that a person has worked. But if I return back to that column and show you the formula that was generated, there's the formula, and it divides the numbers of days someone has worked by 365.25 to accommodate leap years. Whether or not you would have done that in a different way remains to be seen. But that's one solution offered by Copilot, and something that you might want to evaluate for its accuracy, or ask the question a second time and see if you get an identical answer or you get a dissimilar answer. Copilot in Microsoft Excel provides a pane on the right side of the screen. You want to understand the data, you want to edit the data. Any one of those major categories at the top appear at the pane, and then the bottom, you get to either use the ones at the top or write your own. As you can see, this is what it found when it analyzed the data. It does analysis. It's also able to do formatting in the form of conditional formatting. It wasn't I striping the rows that were greater than 8,000. It highlights them, and then you could apply that to the table in question. It must be a table. And you can do other things as represented by these screenshots that are possible with Copilot. And as I suggested before, will inevitably expand. This is just highlighting individual cells.